Hello everyone and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets and drama. So I'm back for another Roscoe's recap, and this is a combined video for the viewing parties for season 18 episodes 13 and 14. So today we're going to be talking about Denali reveals what production did when she had a full panic attack off camera after being eliminated. Hormona Lisa reveals the truth about why she's not close to anyone from her season. And Shea says that Jane Don't was, quote, set up from the beginning. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. And if you like these videos, please make sure you hit subscribe to be notified when I post more content. So we'll start with the viewing party for episode 13, and the guests that week were Denali and Paige 3 from Drag Race UK. They started by mentioning the mini challenge for that week, which was the Puppet Challenge, and because it was so bad, RuPaul gave the win to the crew instead. A lot of people online after the episode were thirsting over one of the crew members, and multiple queens said that he was their on-set crush. For example, Plain Jane tweeted a funny story that during her season, she was talking to some of the other queens about how hot he was, but she didn't realise that because they were mic'd, they could hear everything they were saying. At Roscoe's, Denali gave a shout out to this crew member who is named Ian and said everyone was thirsting over him because he had a mullet and a moustache. Denali joked that when you're sequestered on set, you're so horny that, quote, if there's one moustache or a mullet anywhere, we get wet, and everyone laughed. They talked a bit more about being horny, and Denali admitted that, for example, DragCon UK in London was really long, and she needed to, quote, decompress. So she said she went to Sweatbox, which is a gay sauna and gym. She said that she turned the corner and ran into Jimbo, calling her, quote, my sister, my sister. When they asked how many sisters she ran into there, Denali said, quote, not too many, just Jimbo. They moved on and talked about whether track record should matter at this point in the season. Naysha brought up the analogy she had mentioned before, which was comparing it to the Super Bowl, where two teams play against each other, but the one with the best track record doesn't always win. It only matters who wins the final game. So should you take track record into account, or just go off who won the lip sync? Denali made a good point that if she were a producer, she'd be looking at whether the season had been predictable and whether they should add, quote, one more moment of unpredictability at the very end just to get people talking. Naysha joked, quote, so Juicy's going home, and Caramel joked, quote, they can't have an all-white finale, baby. They can't do that, that would be crazy. Denali added that the song choice for the lip sync would immediately reveal who the producers were favouring. They also discussed the lip sync between Jane Don't and Nene Coco. Denali pointed out that Jane was much more corseted than usual with a breastplate, massive pads and big hair, whereas Nene was, quote, in pads and a slingshot, ready to do a cartwheel back tuck. But Denali gave Jane her credit, saying she still managed to do a cartwheel in the corset and she held her own. They then had a VIP question for Denali about her elimination, and they wanted to know if production said anything to Denali after she left the stage. Denali got emotional and revealed that she had a full panic attack in the workroom after being eliminated. She said everything was just so overwhelming and it hit her all at once. She started hyperventilating and told a producer, quote, I think I'm having a panic attack. I need to get out of here right now. She said production were actually really sweet and let her have a moment and go into a production office where she was allowed to call her boyfriend, which she said was, quote, so nice. So Denali sobbed to her boyfriend about what happened and said it was really cathartic. Denali also shared that both times she's been eliminated on Drag Race, that first phone call home was devastating because, quote, you really always want to tell your friends or family, like, I made it, I did it, but both times she had to deliver bad news. She said the second time she was eliminated was especially hard because she had a full panic attack. But she ended on a positive note, saying it's a reminder that the real world is out there waiting for you, and on a happier note, Denali is getting married this year, and so everyone clapped and cheered for Denali. Caramel then asked Paige 3 a similar question, because Paige had a lot of hype going into UK Season 7, and people expected her to make it to the end. Paige said she was definitely disappointed in herself when she got eliminated, but she had the opposite reaction to Denali. Rather than hyperventilating, she completely blacked out. She also revealed some behind the scenes tea and said that when you get eliminated, you have to sit in a room on your own for about an hour while they're filming the rest of the episode and the mirror message, and Paige was sitting there in a full latex outfit the whole time. But Paige said she's quite a realist, and she had the opportunity to go home for a day or two, look at all the pictures on her wall of all the great things that she's done in her career, and she said, quote, "I'm Paige 3, B-word, let's go back." And then she went back and did her thing for when the eliminated queens came back for the finale performance. There was then another VIP question, which was for Paige, about how Sasha Colby became her drag mother, because some people in the audience didn't even know about this, including Batty Davis, who was surprised. Paige explained that she was on tour as Sasha's support act, and they had never met before, but Paige had been a huge fan of Sasha since way before Drag Race, going back to when Sasha won Miss Continental. But during one of the shows, Sasha got ready early and came to watch Paige's number. Then afterwards, Sasha pulled Paige aside, and Sasha said to her, quote, "Don't do anything less, don't do anything more, do exactly what you're doing, you are me 10 years ago." Then, later, when they were in London, Sasha said to Paige, quote, "I'd really love you to be my daughter, can I announce it on stage tonight?" And Paige said, quote, "F yeah." And I found a clip from this moment on Paige's Instagram.
Bring to the stage my daughter, give it for Paige. I love it! Mama! Finally a dancing daughter! I'm feeling toxic!
And Paige finished by saying Sasha has been amazing to her. Okay, so now let's get into the viewing party for episode 14, and the guests that week were Hormona Lisa and Shea. They started by explaining there had been some problems with Delta Airlines, so Anya Nerve was supposed to be there, but she had to cancel, and Naisha was also running late, so Shea would be coming in to fill in for Anya. But Hormona was there, so they asked her what her impressions are of the cast of season 18. Hormona said she doesn't really vibe with Juicy Love Dion and thinks that she comes across, quote, a little bratty. But Hormona said she doesn't really know Juicy, so that might not be true. And funnily enough, they both share the same birthday, but Hormona joked that Juicy forgot to wish Hormona a happy birthday, which is why it started the whole problem, and everyone laughed. Hormona also revealed that she's only seen a few episodes of this season, and she doesn't really watch Drag Race in general, because her philosophy is, quote, "If I'm not going to get paid, I ain't going to watch it." She added that she'd never watched a whole episode of Drag Race before being on the show, and joked that you could probably tell. She didn't even watch all of her own season, and specifically avoided watching the Lip Sync Lollapalooza episode. She said she was in a bar in Tampa at the time when they were playing it, and she went outside pretending to smoke to avoid watching it. Shea then joined them, and Caramel then asked both of them what they think of season 18 so far. Hormona said from what she's seen, which is not many episodes, she thinks the queens are having fun and that's all they can control. She also joked that she's glad they replaced the light bulbs in the mirror that Hormona stole when she got eliminated on her season, along with Jules Sparkle's one remaining palette of white foundation powder. Shea, however, was more critical of season 18 and said she feels like the show has, quote, kind of lost the plot. She explained it's no shade to the queens because she thinks they're doing well with the given circumstances, but she said there have been decisions, challenges, and eliminations that have left her confused. Shea added that we're on season 18 of the show and it's been going for almost 20 years, so it's hard to always create memorable moments that don't feel like things we've seen before. She said the fact that the jury is still kind of out for her about this season is, quote, kind of indicative that I just haven't been gagged. Batty then suggested that maybe the show needs to be less produced and just let the girls be the girls. Shea agreed and said there's something about the production side that feels, quote, really inauthentic from their end, but she thinks the queens are showing up the best way they can. Naysha then made an interesting point about casting. She feels like before, the show used to cast over-the-top personalities and then figure out the story, but now she feels like they figure out the story first and then cast around it. She then joked that she read somewhere online that someone described this season as, quote, stale, and she said those were not necessarily her words, and everyone laughed. They then discussed Jane Dont's shocking elimination from last episode, and Naysha asked whether people think Nene should have been eliminated instead of Jane. Shea said, quote, I feel like Jane was set up from the beginning. Shea pointed out that the challenge was improv that week, and the number one rule of improv is yes and, but RuPaul just kept saying no. So Shea said, quote, there was nowhere for her to go. B-word was set up from the beginning. It was a scheme set up by Todd for some bull bleep. Shea added that all the decisions throughout the season have been extremely confusing, and she wishes whoever gets the crown, quote, good luck. Yes, Diva, good for you, but it's been so, I am confusion, and people laughed. Batty then brought up a theme that they'd been discussing at Roscoe's, which is strategy over talent. Naysha asked the guests what they think about queens who come into the show with a strategy versus those who just rely on their talent. Hormona made a good point that maybe the issue isn't just the producers producing, but also the contestants are producing and strategizing on top of that. So Hormona said, quote, it's like two different avenues of producing going on at the same time, and they have a traffic jam. There was then a VIP question, which was whether they think less queens are going to want to audition for Drag Race in the future, because on this season, they eliminated the strongest competitors like Jane Don't, so maybe any future contestants may think that the risk is no longer worth the reward. Hormona said she doesn't think so because as a drag queen, quote, you kind of have to have an ego disorder, so everyone who auditions thinks they're going to win. Hormona said she knew she wasn't going to win, and she also joked that she hopes that Joella didn't think that she would actually win either, and people laughed. Shea said she can understand how seeing weird eliminations might discourage people, but she pointed out that there have been tons of queens throughout the show who didn't get a, quote, fair shake, and they were more compelling in person than what we saw on camera. Shea added that she was lucky that she got a great edit, but she's seen other queens whose best sides were not shown. So Shea encouraged anyone thinking of auditioning should just do it, because, quote, what's the worst that can happen? They cast you. Naysha also piggybacked off this and said she knows that she's not good at Drag Race, and she had a, quote, horrible experience after going home first and then second. But she hasn't stopped working since then, and the power of television takes you all over the world, so she encouraged people not to get discouraged and still audition, and people clapped and cheered for Naysha. There was then a question for Hormona about the Discord safety pin situation and whether it was riggery, especially given the drama with Lexi and the rhinestones on Hormona's season. Just to quickly explain in case you don't know, on season 17, Hormona used her own rhinestones using a design challenge, but Lexi Love complained to production about it because it was apparently against the rules because you're only supposed to use the materials provided. wanted, so production then made Hormona remove all of her stones. Although it later came out that other queens like Susie Toot also used their own stones, but they got away with it because production did not find out. And then on season 18, Discord Adams used a lot of her own safety pins during the design challenge, and they were not in the box of materials provided, but she didn't really get fully penalised for it. Going back to Roscoe's, Hormona said she doesn't really understand the safety pins thing, but regarding her own situation, she feels like the rules were not clearly stated. She explained that when they were leaving to go back to the hotel during filming, production said that they could take their stuff home to finish it or stone it, so Hormona took her outfit home and stoned it. Hormona also revealed that Lexi actually convinced her to give all of her good applique rhinestones to Lucky Stars to help her out. So if the stones were really against the rules, why did Lexi tell her to do that? And Hormona genuinely thought it was okay to use her own stones on her outfit because she had heard queens in the past like Trinity the Tuck say that you should bring your own stones and feathers to Drag Race for the design challenges. Batty joked to Hormona, quote, "So essentially you cheated and got caught." But Hormona said she doesn't consider it cheating because, quote, "I think you have to know you're cheating." Hormona added that she stayed up the whole night putting stones on her outfit, which she would not have done if she knew it was wrong because she loves having her 10 hours of sleep. Hormona also made a good point that if the queens on season 18 had reacted like Lexi did, production probably would have made Discord take the safety pins off for storyline. But because nobody crashed out about it, they let it slide. Shea then asked Hormona if production ever specifically told them they couldn't use their own stones. Hormona said from her recollection, no, they didn't, and she revealed that multiple other queens also asked production off camera if they could use their own stones, so that clearly proved that the rules were not communicated properly. There was then a question from an audience member who asked whether in the current era of Drag Race, is it actually a blessing to not win because it opens you up to all of the spin-off shows, whereas if you win, you have to wait for an all-winners season. Shea agreed and said, quote, "Yes, because it extends your storyline beyond being like, I was the girl to cross the finish line." She said people continue to root for you and you get the opportunity to get work done, earn more money, get better costumes and come back showing an elevated version of yourself, so not winning is actually doing you a favour. There was then another audience question, this time for Hormona, and they asked who she is still close with from her season, and whether anyone has asked her to make looks for them. Hormona said she doesn't really make things for other people because it's too stressful, and her process involves trying things on throughout, and she doesn't want people at her house for that long. And as for who she's close with from her season, she said, to be honest, she's not really close to anybody from her season and she's still not. She added that it's not tea or shade, it's just the way it is. The only one she's sort of gotten closer to is Acacia Forgot, who she finds really fun. But otherwise, she does not keep in touch with anyone from her season. But Hormona made it clear that it was, quote, not from a lack of trying on her part. She said, quote, "I'm a good effing friend. I'm loyal. I answer the phone if you call at 3 a.m. So Hormona said that the other queens on season 17 are the ones who are missing out on a good friend. So there you go, there was the Roscoe's recap for Drag Race Season 18, episodes 13 and 14. Do you think that track record makes a big difference on Drag Race? And do you agree with Shea that Jane Don't was set up from the beginning? Let me know in the comments. I'd also like to give a special shout out to my newest Patreon member Aaron, who joined in the You're a Winner Baby tier. Aaron, you are a winner baby. If you'd like to watch my videos before they go on YouTube, as well as see the things that I cut out of my Roscoe's recaps, as well as other exclusive content, please check out my Patreon. It just costs a few dollars a month and it really does help support the channel, and I'll put a link to my Patreon in the description. I'd also like to say thank you so much to all of my amazing Patreon members. I really do pinch myself all the time thinking about how lucky I am to have all of you supporting me, and it really does make a huge difference to the channel, so thank you all so much. Please make sure you like and comment on this video to help boost it in the algorithm and promote it to more people. And please make sure you subscribe. It's free, it only takes 2 seconds, and it really does make a big difference to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you'll join me in the future for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets, and drama. Thank you so much. Bye.